Hello everybody, it's Rob here. Today I want to talk about the tier list for Season 2. The season starts tomorrow on the 17th of October. Before we get into the tier list, this is going to be an overall tier list, like overall ranking, like all the classes basically. Just a quick disclaimer, like nobody has been able to play this patch yet from the community. So a lot of this is just my best guess, and with the limited testing possibilities that we have, like we are testing in the live game, so we don't have like all the changes, like the overpower changes isn't in, for example, and we also don't know like all the mechanics. They're not 100% clear yet. We don't know exactly how the packs will work, how the season theme will impact all this. I will do my best to update this list as the season starts. I'm going to put the link to the sheet down below. That one will be updated. And yeah, just want you to take all this with a grain of salt again. Like a lot of this is just my best guess, and I just wanted to share that with you. So let's get into it. Starting with the leveling 1 to 50 only tier list. This one is just very simple because I just wanted to rank the best leveling build for each class. This is solo. So the Necromancer with Blood Surge is the absolute best leveling strategy. You're going to be doing the dopamine tunnels this here. The dopamine tunnels, but we just always call them dopamine tunnels. And the Blood Surge Necro is the absolute king. It's revolving around Thorn Spec, and it's really strong. A tier, not far behind, is the Sorcerer with Firewall. This one is getting a good buff. It's also one of the best builds in the game. Same for the Rogue with Twisting Blades, probably the best build in the game. Very quick, easy aspect, very good. Barb, this is going to be my starter class. It's not the best in leveling, but it's really shining in the mid to the end game. And Upheaval is going to get a fresh buff, and we're going to play that into the Whirlwind spec in the end to mid game, just like we did on Diablo 4's launch. And the Druid is usually playing Pulverize for leveling. So these are like just my quick ranking for the leveling class. But now we really get into the details on the like overall best builds ranked by basically the skill or the build that the class is playing. So first one here, we have the strongest and the best build. Actually, almost since launch, it's the Twisting Blade Rogue. I don't know why, but it has been received yet another buff. It has been buffed again in the recent patch, while Bursting Venons has been buffed and a lot of other changes. And also Twisting Blade Rogue, especially the Poison version, which is probably going to be the strongest boss killer as well. If you want to beat Uber Duriel or any of the Uber bosses, like probably Twisting Blade Rogue is your pick. It's just so strong, and yeah, the bleed, the poison, the damage over time effect is definitely like not impacted by crit chance and crit damage. So with them nerfing crit chance and crit damage and nerfing like the HP and the damage that the monsters do, this build is gonna become even more powerful. And then plus the buff is just like, this build probably deserves a tier of its own, but we put it together with some of the other strong contenders. On top of this, like it's just like double dipping with some stuff. It's broken, the poison one. And it gets another 1.6 multiplier from the damage over time here, the Flowing Veins pact. Very good build, and yeah, best boss killer in the game, potentially. You probably want to play a Shadow Twisting Blade for speed leveling, and once you want to do like the capstone dungeons or single target damage bosses, you want to switch to the Poison Imbuement version. So Shadow for speed. Infinite resources really strong, and Shadow, best DPS probably, single target in the game for boss killing. Next one here is the Shadow Blight Corpse Explosion Necro. People also call this the Infinimist Necro basically. It's based around a Shadow Blight, and it gets, obviously it's also a dot build. Again, dot builds this season will be extremely strong because crit is nerfed, and crit never worked with dots. So dot builds are just like getting this power pump. So we have this build at the S tier because it's probably getting one of the strongest uniques in the game. If we look at the calculation here that I made, this is basically what the unique does. So this is a new unique generic ring. Your damage over time effects have up to 50% chance to erupt, dealing 5 to 6 base damage of the same type to nearby enemies. And this might not sound like much, but if you scale it up, like usually, like this is for example on Barb Burning Rage, it has 0.3 base damage, and this one is like you know, so much stronger. So if you do the math here with 925 item power, this thing is gonna hit for almost 45 1000 damage. That's the base damage. That is then multiplied with all your multipliers. We have something similar in the game, the Mandarin Ring, which was one of the strongest Necro builds in Season 1. So this one is 27,000, and this one is even stronger, and it is an AoE effect. So yeah, once this is like on high item power, I'm kind of expecting this to rock, basically, and probably be hitting in the hundreds of millions in the end, if everything works like this. Like, obviously, this is, again, I want to reframe you to this disclaimer, like, we just don't know exactly how it works, how frequently it procs. There's basically this rune on there that makes the entire thing. I have the planner link here as well. I'm also going to put a link to all my build guides here in the description. Like, you just click the link and you can like filter here for the class. And yeah, we're just looking at the Necromancer. This is the Shadow Blight. And it's basically this rune here that makes the Corpse Explosion into a damage over time skill with a very high lucky hit chance to proc this ring. And that's why this build might be this, like, it might even beat the Twisting Blades, like, depending on exact mechanics of this, but it's really strong. Next one, we have the Wernado Druid. It's getting a nerf from the crit damage, but a Thunderstruck got like a very crazy buff where it's basically gonna do almost double the damage again if you just stack a bit of distant and close damage. Here is the new note here. So you're getting storm skills, which Tornado is a storm skill. It's getting 50% more damage multiplicatively for the total amount of close and distant damage. And yeah, it's very easy to stack this like on the weapons and on the rings and stuff, because yeah, you don't need vulnerable anymore. And you can also target farm the Tempest Roar here with where do we have this? Uniques per boss. Like here, if you kill Duriel, you can target farm Tempest Roar, so it's going to be a lot easier to get this like build enabling unique. And yeah, we did some just rough math, like the Wernado, it's like losing the crit damage and rampaging Werebeast aspect, but it's still getting more damage because of the Thunderstruck multiplier just being so strong. Or it's going to be around the same damage, and it's just going to be still an S tier build basically. So if you get Tempest Roar and you're blasting with Druid, Wernado is still a good pick. Then we have the Shred that is still bugged. It has been like some parts of it has been fixed, but it seems to still be bugged, and obviously it has insane DPS potential, like up to hundreds of millions and billions of damage, insane auto teleport, and yeah, another S tier build. I would not recommend this one because the bug is like very inconsistent, where it just deals infinite damage basically. And yeah, we have to remain to see if maybe there's going to be some hidden patch notes for this, that it's that the Shred blurring beast and like the poison double dipping is going to be changed. But since we have Twisting Blade Rogue in the game, I doubt it. It's just like how the game works. It's pretty crazy. Then next up, top of A tier, I put 3 Barbarian guides. So in general, bleed builds are getting a bit buffed because they are like a dot-based build. And Barbarian has this like pretty good scaling skill here, Gushing Wounds, where you can basically still multiplicatively scale crit damage and crit chance with all your bleeds. And yeah, Whirlwind Barb is basically a very good speed farmer. It might, like, leveling process is pretty bad on Barb, but in the end, like, Whirlwind has such good speed and it does damage while it moves. It also gets like a channeling power and a bunch of stuff from the pact. Same as a bleed buff and the 1.6 again, multiplicatively here. You can just see, like, we have here this this is the Upheaval one right now. So we have the over time, we've seen it earlier on the Rogue, the Flowing Veins 1.6 multiplier, and we have the channeling power, Bathe in Blood, another 1.4 multiplier. If you stay in the blood, it's a bit annoying, but you gotta play around it. And yeah, Rand, the same thing, like, it just gets like crazy buffs, and this probably might be the best boss killer in the game for Barb. I don't think it's going to be Twisting Blades, but it's going to be pretty solid, I think, because yeah, just the bleeds in general, and then we have the Rupture, and we might also be able to utilize this this new ring that we talked about, because yeah, it's not only a Necro ring, you can also use this on Barb. But obviously Barb has way less lucky hit chance than the Necro with Corpse Explosion. So we'll see how that's gonna go. But I'm expecting Rand to be very strong. Upheaval also got an insane buff, like Hellhammer got buffed. Upheaval's base got buffed, the rune got buffed, Hellhammer gives you 6 ranks, and Upheaval has a good synergy with the freshly buffed Overpower. So I could kind of see like a bazooka kind of playstyle where you just do one big Upheaval hit with your Barb and you basically one-shot the entire pool or the entire screen, because Upheaval has a pretty big area of effect. So I'm really looking forward to it, because I'm probably going to start leveling Upheaval and then I'm going to transition into the Whirlwind Barb in the mid to the end game. And later on, when it comes to the boss killing, I'll try to carry a lot of you guys through Uber Duriel with the Rend, Bleed, Rupture Barbarian. It's gonna be good, man. We're gonna get that Shaco, we're gonna get that Grandfather. It's gonna be fun. Then we have 3 sword builds here in A tier. A Firewall is getting a very good buff, 1.6 dot buff again, the Bleed damage over time skills. It's not being affected by the crit nerfs, and it gets a multiplier from the Burning Instinct. Let me just... I don't think I really have many of the sorcerer builds. Did we even do Paragon? I don't have it here right now. Chance. Here, Burning Instinct. This one is now a multiplier basically. It scales with your crit damage, plus has scaling with your intelligence. And it's going to be really strong together with all the other dot builds that we get, and we got a lot of like attack speed stuff as well. So yeah, we'll see. This one is going to use the Flowing Veins again, another 1.6. And it's also like very good for leveling, as we see here, like the... So you can just like play Firewall all the way to 100 and it's going to be one of the strongest sword builds. Then we have the Ice Spikes, like this one is... utilizing the Blizzard aspect, and it's also getting a tremendous damage buff with the new item power, because the X damage obviously scales with item power here, so we're gonna see way higher DPS numbers on the Ice Spikes, and yeah, we'll see. It's also gonna be looking pretty good, or be the best like single target build on Sorcerer for like doing Uber Duriel. Should probably say this good. Boss killer, and it's also because the Duriel has a big hitbox. Like we can see from the campaign, I doubt they'll rechange the model. So Duriel has a big hitbox, and many spikes will hit him basically. So it's looking to be pretty strong. Ice Shard Stalk, the same thing. It gets like decent buffs. It's losing quite a bit from the vulnerable nerfs, because this was a build that was permanently like applying vulnerability with the Ice Shards. But still, it was the best, or one of the best sword builds already, and it's still gonna remain strong. Then we have Necro build in here. It's the Mandel and Summoner Necromancer. I'm not 100% sure how good this will be, but it got a lot of buffs. The Mandel got a bit of a nerf, because you can't proc it via Bone Prison now. But I still believe it's gonna be one of the strongest boss killer for Necro, especially with the nerf to Bone Spear. And it's gonna be quite a unique playstyle with the minions. Lots of people love it. Some people don't like the playstyle, but I think it's a cool and unique playstyle that has tremendous potential after all the minion buffs. Then we have the Pulverized Druid. Again, it's a good leveling build as well. For Druid, it got double damage with the Thunderstruck, the Paragon node that we talked about earlier. And it has another multiplayer with Raw Might. So looking pretty strong overall, a solid 8 here. This is probably the most popular starter build on the Druid, so pulverize your enemy and let's go. And then this one is obviously a very much a guess. So there is this Boulder Storm. It basically makes your boulder rotate you. I talked about it in a video a couple days ago. And it basically, if you know the Hammered-In from Diablo 2, it basically makes your boulder circle around you like the Hammered-In did. So this one might be a tremendously good speed farmer, but we don't really know how much DPS it's gonna do in the end. Then we have one of a ranged rogue builds. So Twisting Blade is the undoubted king since launch. Like melee rogue has been the best, but there's a lot of changes to Rain of Arrows and the uniques with it. So there is gonna be quite a decent chance that we have them already here. Rain. Hey, here we go. But that's not the one. Yeah, it has Rain of Arrow cooldown and stuff. So they changed a lot of these things, I think. Let me see, Rain. Yeah, here, World of Arcane, like cooldown reduction is there. And then you have the Flickering Steps boots. that also will reduce the cooldown even further. Flickering. This one, for every evade, you reduce the cooldown of your ultimate by basically 10 seconds if you hit 3 enemies. So it's going to be very comfortable to reset your ultimate. And with that, I think it could be tremendous damage potential overall. Like, it has good synergy, good DPS overall, and it's a range build. Then we also have Death Trap Rogue. People played this already. It's still not close to Twisting Blades, so I would definitely recommend you play Twisting Blades. And if you want a range playstyle, go for the Arrow. But the Death Trap also got quite a few buffs, which yeah, play in pretty well for an solid A tier. Then we have B tier Double Swing. I would have loved to put this up here together with Whirlwind, Rend, and Upheaval for some very good balance, because it gets a lot of attack speed benefits here from the several pacts that we have. We need to go on, I think it's called DS. Here it is. So from the pacts, it's getting like all this attack speed, like here 40% of your movement speed, which is 200% usually with various aspects here. So we're gonna attack like crazy. Gonna have a bunch of attack speed basically. And it's very strong build overall. The problem is, Double Swing has this like tiny area of effect. It's like very small. It also gets actually another 1.3 multiplier from the new Ramalaldis, which got changed from 0.3 to 0.4. So very strong because it's a dual wielding build. But in the end, like without Barber, it's just missing that area of effect damage. It's like gonna be a decent or probably even one of the best boss killers for Barb. But it just is not really good for farming, because again, the AoE, the hitbox of the Double Swing needs to be improved or something. Like, it's just too small, or we need like a correspondent legendary that improves it, like with the Hoda Barb, where it basically creates an area of effect, right? So next would be the Hoda Barb. Double Swing is gonna do more damage than Hoda, so but Hoda got a 1.15 multiplier from the new aspect, Ancestral Echoes, that they did, Ancestral Force. And it's gonna Quake, and it's gonna be way more AoE than Double Swing, so maybe they could make a legendary like this for Double Swing. I think that would be cool, just to help it a bit in the AoE damage without increasing its single target again. But yeah, Hoda is definitely there, strong build, good Fury scaling. Yeah, we'll see. Like, I think in the end, Double Swing is a bit stronger build. That's why I put it like in the same tier, but like quite a bit above, basically. But it's not gonna make the cut and compete with Bleed, I don't think, against the bosses. But again, it remains to be seen, because the Bleed mechanics are a bit of a question mark. Then we have Bone Spear. This one was massively nerfed. I think I did some like napkin math on Bone Spear, and it lost like... I'm basically like doing 4 to 5 times less damage now. Because this was a build that was heavily relying on like 100% vertical uptime. You basically had 100% crit chance and like 700, 800 crit damage. And you also got the Ossified Essence nerf, and yeah, it's gonna affect it a lot. So the Bone Spear Necro sadly dropped down from S tier, dropped down 2 tiers. But it's still there. I think it's still gonna be a decent build, especially in AoE scenarios. It's also gonna get tremendous buffs from like all the attack speed stuff that you have in the packs. But overall, like not as strong as the Shadowblight Necro or any dot builds. Bloodlands Necro. This one has a pretty crazy synergy with Overpower, which they buffed a lot, because I think it's like on every Bloodlands, on every like 6th cast, you're basically guaranteed to Overpower, which is pretty damn good if you're asking me. So 6 hits and you Overpower, you can even stack attack speed, because normal builds that work with Overpower can't really scale attack speed because it's hard to proc Overpower. It's like usually like a second based time with various pacts or affixes or paragon nodes. But Bloodlands can just trigger it every 6 attacks, so it even scales with attack speed. Supernatural rune, really strong build, I think. Arclash Sorcerer, there's one more here that I wanted to mention. This one is basically has potential to become an immortal sorcerer with the attack speed buffs that we get from Moonrise and from Ravenous. And together with Hectic, every 5 cast of Arclash will reduce our cooldowns, which our Flame Shield makes us immune, and there's a cooldown skill, by 2 seconds. So we are just attacking like 3 times a second or something, and we're getting like flame shield resets. So it has good potential to be completely immortal with this build. Basically have 100% uptime on flame shield. So I'm looking forward to this. It's gonna make for some good memes, and Arclash was already a pretty solid build that lots of people played. And then there's a bunch more builds in this tier. I didn't mention like in 80, there's a bunch more like rogue builds. Like rogue overall is pretty strong class for sure. So there's more builds here like that I did not really play, so I can't really judge, but there's gonna be a lot more, like I think like ball, lightning, sorcerer. There's gonna be just a bunch of fire, ball, sorcerer, like just a bunch more builds. But again, I haven't really played those, so it's like difficult to judge. I think they're like definitely about like 5 to 10 more builds here and in these B and C tier. I just know for sure on Barb because I tested like everything on Barb. So we have like Thorns here, it gets like a new pact, it gets a Steel Grasp, a 1.5 multiplier. It does not, like Thorns can't crit, so you don't get crit nerfed. But you also don't benefit from the higher weapon item power. So I think if the item power scaled somehow with Thorns, it would actually move up to like B or maybe even A tier. But again, like you always rely on the monsters hitting you, and that's always a hard sell, I think. A Leapquake is also getting a new glyph, but it's still gonna be clunky with all the cooldown nerfs that we've gotten. Maybe the Tusk Helm will help it a little bit, like this one, because it gives extra cooldown. But again, here we also don't know what the implicit is gonna be on this. Like it might not have cooldown, like as a base roll, right? Like as a base stat. So even getting 10 more cooldown, if we then don't have like a 10% cooldown roll as an affix, doesn't really help us, right? But there's a bit of a question mark on some of these. That's why, again, I want to refrain to this disclaimer. It's all just my best guess, basically. And we have the Deathblow Barb. It also gets a rank to Deathblow on Overkill. Would be pretty decent overall, but I never really liked the Deathblow playstyle because like you're so reliant on the cooldown. Like if you don't kill an enemy, you're basically not getting any cooldown resets, so that kind of sucks. Then we have the Bulwark Druid. There was a big patch note in here that Bulwark is no longer scaling with the target's health, so I guess this is still like a build that you can play, but it's gonna feel a lot weaker now in terms of DPS. But it's still like the most tanky build probably in the game. So if you do like any content where you just want to stay alive, Bulwark injured low life version is still right up there, because like you also have this Undying where you get life for casting skills, but what's even better here is Resilience where you get damage reduction for every 2% life you're missing. So you can get up to like 45% damage reduction if you're playing low life Bulwark with your shields. So it's not going to deal as much damage as it used to, but it's going to be hella tanky. Then we have a couple more builds here in C tier for sure on the other classes. On D tier, I just know the worst Barb builds right now is Frenzy, even though it's gonna get a nice buff here from all the attack speed. It's just gonna lose all the area of effect with Barber. Maybe this could be a boss killer, but it's not really gonna be anything that you wanna play for farming. Just again, because it only hits one target without the Barber heart. Then we have Kick. It has decent overpower synergy, but it was never really like a strong build overall. Same for Charge. It has this like terrain requirement to reset your cooldowns. But yeah, it's like just really like clunky and annoying to play around. But yeah, that has been the like overall tier list. I made, again, the sheet is in the description. I made a separate one here on the second tab that you can check out, which is just Barb by itself. It's a little different here because I earlier said that double swing I feel is a bit stronger than Hoda. But I would have to like look at the like grand scheme of things here and just move things accordingly to be by the tier. But this is basically like a ranking of how I think the Barb power builds are gonna be. Same with some changes, changes. What's gonna change with the build? What's gonna get buffed? What's gonna get nerfed? And also the player links to most of them. Also for the leveling stuff, where I already made a separate video. I'm also gonna put in the description. But you can see here the transition that I'm looking to do. So this is like Whirlwind Barb leveling into Whirlwind Barb mid game. You can do, or Upheaval leveling, which I recommend. Recommended. And then the Upheaval mid game, which then transitions into the Whirlwind Barb endgame basically that you have in a separate video, and that's gonna be in here. So yeah, it's gonna be an exciting season, that's for sure. I hope you enjoyed this overview, guys. And again, this is just my thoughts. Like we will see how exactly the mechanics work. I'm actually pretty confident that there's gonna be something that's gonna be broken again. I hope for the future that we can get like some sort of like public test server. Like we have a very nice system in D3 where we get to like test these, like all the changes that are coming like a couple weeks before the season starts. So all these broken mechanics don't make it into game, especially once we have leaderboards. I just remember like when the Barber got released, like there were so many bugs with the Barber heart, and like we had like this infinite damage with the Rend Bleed Barb and Berserk Ripping and all that stuff. Like if we have leaderboards, it would be really cool to have a PTR server. But yeah, we'll see. I hope you guys gonna enjoy season 2. I'm gonna be streaming every day for like the next 10 days basically. We're gonna race, blast to level 100. I'm gonna help you guys out with Uber Duria. We're gonna farm Shakos. We're gonna farm Grandfathers, and yeah, we're gonna play Barb. I'm pumped. Finally again, we played a favorite class of mine and of many of you as well, and I'm looking forward to it. I'll see you soon, guys. Take care. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe, leave a like or a comment. I'm also live on Twitch almost every day, so come and say hi.